On episode 319 of the podcast, we are talking about personal branding and how even as a company, you've got to be investing in this asset known as your personal brand. We cover the 3 stories that we tell ourselves, and then we cover the importance of showing up. Because if you really believe in the service that you're providing the world, how else are they going to find you? How else are they, the world, the people in the world that you connect with, that is your ideal client? How else are they going to find you? All and more in today's episode. What is up, friend? And welcome to the Grow Your Video Business podcast. I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the show for corporate filmmakers that want to build the business of their dreams through sustainable production business practices. Wow, that's a mouthful. We are talking about personal branding in this episode, and if you aren't totally confident with the video business that you're building, if you're not totally happy with it, if you're frustrated or stuck, if you're not getting consistent work and you want to be able to charge clients what the projects are actually worth, then I want you to go grab my 6-figure filmmaker workshop where I share my best practices. This is the best stuff from over the past 18 years of me running my own video production business. This workshop is my gift to you, and you can go watch it today for free at studiosherpas.com/workshop. You'll get some actionable things for your business that will help you be in business for a long time. That is my hope for you, and I'm so glad that you are here with me today for this episode. Again, for that workshop, it's studiosherpas.com/workshop. Let's get into this episode all about personal branding. Here we go. I had a cold this weekend, so if you think like, man, he really sounds like a DJ, it's fake, it's not real. Catch me on the next episode. All right, let's go. What's up, friends? Hey, welcome to this episode of the show. Today, I have with me Lisa McGuire, who is a certified business storyteller, a personal brand strategist, and founder of Your Passion, Purpose, and Personal Brand podcast. Could you put any more P's in there? Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Yes, I have this thing for alliteration. So yeah, you caught on to that. Yeah, so glad to be here.
I was actually going to ask you, like, what's the word? What is that called when you use the same letter? Alliteration. Yes, you nailed
alliteration.
It.
And that's why I have a pop filter on my microphone.
If only for that. Yes, as you introduce your show. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. What's the one thing that you love most about doing that show?
You know, I think the thing I love most about doing that show is meeting people with incredible stories that on the forefront, you look at them, oh, this is just a regular person. Although what does that really mean? But finding out the why that made the pivot in their life and to see how excited they get about it.
When I started my video company, 18 years ago, I was going to say umpteen million or whatever. 18 years ago, that was the same like driver that I had. Was to just be able, and the more I did it, the more I like dug into people's story and tried to understand their why, the more I was like, this is the best job ever. When like people they just like light up when they remember the moment for them, like why they do the thing that they do, and to be a part of it, like to be in the room with somebody when they do that. It's so fun. And then I think, and you're probably the same way, not only do I do that in my work, but like if I'm networking or if I'm meeting a new family member or something like that, it's the same thing. I'm like, hey, so tell me, like, what do you love about what you do? And so I'm able to take that in my personal life, and it's so enjoyable.
It really is, because that is the core essence of who we are. All of these other things that we're playing this role, you know, that's all window dressing. But when you can get down to the core of who people are, like that's when they come alive, which is why my show is named Your Passion, Purpose, and Personal Brand. That tells it.
Yeah. Love that. There's a lot of people in the personal branding space. For you, how do you differentiate? Like, what's your thing that you're like, well, this is what you can say like, well, my story and you and your personality, and that is the thing, and that could be the only thing. But my guess is you probably have something else that you would say like, oh yeah, this is what makes me different or unique or whatever.
Yes, I think what I bring to the personal brand space is not the window dressing that we put out there, that we want to craft this image, what we put on social media, what we want people to think about us, whether it's, our resume, exactly what a resume or do we rent a house in Miami and pull up in a Lamborghini? It's not that. My point is to show up as a true personal brand. And I call it a personal brand of integrity. You have to know who you are. You have to look, and really, Ryan, what I have surmised is there's 3 different stories we tell. There's the stories we tell the world, which that's what we put on social media. That's that window dressing. There's the stories we tell ourselves, which that's all that mind trash, all of those limiting beliefs. And there's the stories buried inside of our soul, which is the why that we get into. So if you look at those stories, those are 3 different stories. How do you build a personal brand when you've got 3 different storylines in your head? So that is why I call it a personal brand of integrity, is helping people create one story that combines those 3 levels.
Lisa, I love that. Oh man, that's really good. I just watched an Instagram video of this guy. He's like talking about how you should talk on your Zoom meetings with your coworkers. Like, and he was basically like, don't overshare when somebody's like, "What'd you do this weekend?" And he's really poking fun at the whole thing. And he's like, well, do I tell him I like got super drunk with my, best friends, or I went to my grandma's funeral? He's like, no, just like keep it really simple and short, and not much. It kind of had a low key weekend. What about you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, but that's how people that's like people's norm. Like that is, and that stuff makes me cringe when I think about, almost being trapped in corporate America, out of college. I could have fallen into that, and I probably would have gotten fired from many a job because I can't lie. I can't tell. Yeah, I can't be like, I've got to be totally authentic, and it probably would get me in trouble with certain HR departments or people that just don't want to, be real.
Right. Well, I do want to caution people, though. There is a line that you should not cross if you would like to keep your job and you would like to keep your professional reputation. There's a very fine line to walk, and that's what I help people learn is like, where is the line that you do not cross, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I probably need a lot of work on what lines should not cross.
There's some stories.
According to my wife, she's like, I can't believe you said that. I'm like, it's fine. She's like, hey, I don't think it was fine. They think you're weird. I'm like, I am weird. So it's on brand. It's all on brand.
That's right.
What is, I run into a lot of times, and I was there myself, all these years ago when I started my business. Not so much when I was doing, when I was a wedding filmmaker for the first bunch of years. I felt like it just needed to be me. I didn't have to put on a facade of like, we're this really big video production company. But then we created another brand, which was focused on corporate and commercial films. And our first client was the University of Michigan, this massive university.
Wow. Working
for the business school. And so there was a part of me, like, they asked us to come to a meeting and do a presentation. And I was like, okay, well, I've got 4 people that work with me. Let me bring 3 of them so that we seem like, really big. And that was that was this mindset that I had, that we had to come across like that, and not just in person, but what do we have on our website? What is the verbiage? Let's make sure that we always say we, and if there's like a big group of people, we can post that. But a fear of showing hey, there's only 2 people that work full time here and we're working with like major brands. Like, can you do that? So help the person who's like me all those years ago, who's afraid to embrace their, 1-person, 2-person size company that wants to work with big brands. Is that okay?
Yes, it absolutely is. And I get what you're saying, Ryan, because when I started, I was exactly the same way. I wanted to use the pronoun we all the time when it was just me. But I will tell you, more and more people right now have chosen the company of one, the solopreneur. And they've realized for various different reasons that they don't want to have a company of full-time employees. One, that is a great deal of pressure when you're looking at the viability of someone's business and being able to support their family. And second, it's a whole lot easier to have 1099 employees to work with, and you just call them your team. So you can show up, but that is why I love personal branding so much, is it gives you a chance to boost your authority, to show your expertise, to show your point of view, and why you are the person that they need to hire, and your team shares those same values. So I have no problem with a company of one coming in, but you do have a team. You're usually working with other people, whether they're contractors or white label partners. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I would say even that was a mini fear that I had, because early on, I started hiring friends to help assist me when we were filming, and then I would hire friends to help on editing. But I felt like, because they weren't actual quote unquote, W-2 like employees or full-time employees, that I felt like even that was a little like I feel like I'm lying to everybody, and it's all fake, and they're gonna find me. They're gonna find me out that I don't have anybody that's really working for me, which wasn't really the case.
Yeah, no, times have changed. There's so many people who are 1099 employees, so many people who are in corporate on side gigs, doing side gigs, people who have multiple jobs, even to W-2 employees who have more than one job. Mm-hmm. It's just a different day and age today.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're using this phrase personal brand. If I own a video company, I actually do own a video company, but let's say I own a video company and I've got maybe I have no employees, but I really want, this is the year I'm going to hire at least one full-time employee, a W-2 employee. And the name of my company is not my name. It's a more, general or creative name, because I have visions of, 3 years from now, I'm going to have multiple employees. We're going to have a studio space, and it's going to be a quote unquote legit business. Personal branding, is that something that I need? If I don't necessarily want to be the face. I don't need to be the, on the front of the website or anything like that, because at some point I kind of want to work myself out of a job and have other people run the company. So how important is personal branding for somebody like me in that situation?
Personal branding is important for everyone, because what we don't realize is we all have a personal brand. Whether you know it or not, personal branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room. All right. So even if you are working in corporate, you have a personal brand. And when you leave corporate, it is the only thing you take with you when you leave that company, right? So your personal brand is how you are known for your expertise. It's taking what you're known as an expert and what is your point of view about it. It's your personality, which, it's very clear. You have no problem with, you show up, you're living large, you're very much out there. And it's also your character. It's how you treat people. So if you look at a company, when you think of Amazon, there's thousands and thousands of employees, but of course we think of one brand very quickly. When we think of Amazon, we think of Jeff Bezos. Right. When you think of Apple, you think of Steve Jobs, you think of Tim Cook. Any company you could come up with. But what is so wonderful about personal branding is when your brand aligns with the mission of the company, the vision of the company, you can leverage that to help the company grow as well.
I love that. Oh man, that's something that I think I was able to figure out early on. I was like, hey, let's create these core values. And I think I was probably reading a book that offered this suggestion, and I was all about it. And I did make it, and I just feel like I fell into it. But the core values were like fun, positivity, like things that really, like, a little bit sarcastic. I'm like, oh yeah, this is my personality, and it's just become so much easier to draw like those kinds of people that want to work here, and we're able to draw clients that don't resemble that personality, but appreciate it, right?
Yes. So Ryan, what you're talking about there is when you put yourself out there, when you should, like, I knew today's conversation was going to be fun because you're a fun guy. You've got a lot of energy.
A mushroom?
You attract that. But again, it's the relatability that you have to people. So you may not be attracting people who are exactly like that, but they do appreciate that. So you're relatable to them. And that is one of the benefits of really having that personal brand of integrity is you can show up as who you are, and you need to be polarizing enough to attract people who want that and send the other people away. There's plenty of people out there. There's plenty of business. I believe in abundance mindset there, but you want to attract the people who do appreciate that. That's
really good advice. I mean, I feel like you're preaching to the choir, but I like it. I like being the choir. I encourage when I'm chatting with a filmmaker and they're like, oh, I want to work with better clients. And one of the reasons that we don't work with the clients that we desire is because we're trying to just please everybody. And we're trying to put on that like corporate face, and where our website looks like the same website as our competition and their competition and so on. And so there's nothing that makes it stand out. There's nothing that makes you stand out. You talk about being polarizing. I've embraced over well, let me just tell this quick story. When we won that job with U of M, the business school, we made a little video that we played for them in that meeting. And on that video, we went to their campus, we filmed a bunch of stuff, and we played this beautiful video. And we were like, we did voiceover, like, oh man, it'd be amazing to partner with the University of Michigan. It just holds a special place in our heart, blah, blah, blah. And then I show up at the very end of the video, and I'm kind of like ending this like beautiful soundbite. And then I say, and we made this video because, well, we didn't really know what else to do. And then it like cuts to the logo, and then you kind of hear me like giggling in the background. It's like, wait, this took a turn that we weren't really expecting. These guys are like kind of goofy. I can't believe that they did that. And I knew that was either going to break the relationship or it was going to turn into something. And what they told us, they stopped the video, they turned the lights on, and they looked at me, and I was like, I was trying to read the room. I thought they appreciated it, and the brand manager looks and he said, what you did with your video right there, that's not our personality, but the way that you were able to portray your personality in that video, that's the same thing that we need you to do with our video, is to be able to portray our personality just like that. And I was like, oh, cool. I think I made a good decision. But it just goes to say, or to emphasize what you're saying, being polarizing. We could have just made the front half of that video. It was very safe, and they would have been like, oh, wow, that was really nice. But we worked with them for years, and had they not known that we are a little bit goofy, a little bit quirky, that we like to have fun, if they didn't appreciate that or get that, that would have been a miserable relationship, or at least that first project would have been kind of miserable, and then there wouldn't have been any more projects after that. So I think your point of being polarizing is so worth like digging into for all of us as we think about what does that actually mean for me, for my personality, and for the brand personality.
Yeah, and here it is. How many years later you're telling that story, Ryan? But the thing is there are plenty of talking heads out there that can spout out facts, that can give data, that can talk all day long about the features of their product or their service. People want something a little bit different and memorable. Work is supposed to be fun as well. So I think that's great you did that and you were willing to take a chance. And again, that reflects who you are.
Yep. A little bit crazy. So where does somebody start that is in a... Here's the difference. I think for me, just because of my, extroverted personality, I don't mind at all being on camera. I love a microphone. That's kind of unique. Not everybody is like that, which is like so weird to me. What's wrong with all of you guys? So for the person that is not like that, they might be struggling with like, well, how do I, like, what is my thing, my polarizing thing? What makes me not vanilla, or what can make me stand out? Where does somebody, where can they start looking to maybe identify some of those things so that they can start to use them on their website or in their emails or even in face-to-face meetings with people?
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you asked. That's such a great question. And I actually had this conversation with someone this week. I am a coach for a networking group, and I was talking about we all have something that makes us different. And this is a family attorney, and he said, "I really don't know what makes me different than anyone else." And that is the thing: is we are so close to who we are. Yep. That is why I created a program. I have a framework. It's called The Difference Is You, that we take people through 3 levels of self-awareness to understand who they are. And that is the thing with personal branding. Personal branding, a personal brand of integrity, starts with self-awareness. Because again, who you think you're showing up as is not how your audience perceives you. So I would advise people to work with a personal brand strategist. No surprise there, to just help start going through that process.
So, and I totally want to we will share your URL and all that stuff. I want people to connect with you on this because I definitely think, man, you have a great skill in this area. What's one of the first exercises or things that you take that person through in order to start to, well, and maybe I can answer the question. Is one of the assignments to ask your close family, friends to talk hey, when you describe me or when you think about me, what are some of the personality traits or things that stand out to you?
Yes, that is one of the exercises that we go through because how we think we show up to people. And this is one of the most amazing assessments that we do with clients when they're in this program is they're afraid to ask people this is going to be weird. And I'll tell them, just use me as an excuse. Your business coach told you needed to do this as an assignment. So then that takes the pressure off of them kind of looking please tell me wonderful things about myself, right? But the feedback they get is so affirming for them. And when they start seeing trends of the same things showing up, so that is one of the things that we do. The other thing that I have come to realize, Ryan, is one of the very first processes that we go to. Remember when I talked about the 3 different levels of stories? Is the stories you tell yourself is going through and looking at what are the things you believe about yourself that may not really be true. So you talked about being an extrovert and loving the microphone. Well, I'm on the opposite end. Before Zoom, the thought of showing up on video, it would have been 5 hours with a makeup artist and hair and getting things done and, having someone come in and do lighting and, oh, what does my voice sound like? Until a videographer said to me, "What are you afraid of?" And I thought, I'm afraid of the story I'm telling myself. But the other thing he said, your people are looking for you. And if you don't show up, how are they going to find you? Well, that was a slap in the face to me because I thought, I am being so selfish. This is all about me. And it's not about me. It's about my clients. They really need to find me. So I got over that real quick. But people don't know how to show up. They don't know what to say when they show up. So helping them figure all of that, particularly introverts, I'm your gal for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I love that. I love that your video guy was telling you that, or video gal. It's really powerful. That's one of the epiphanies that I had even earlier this year. I was interviewing somebody else, and we got on that topic. And I had a course that I was trying to launch for like 3 years, and I was in this mastermind, and I had people in the mastermind that were like, you keep delaying this thing. Do you think that it will help people when it's done? And I'm like, oh yeah, like it'd be so, man, I go through this and this and this. And I wish I would have had this like when I first started out. And they're like, you understand that you're not helping anybody while it's like sitting there unfinished on your computer or in your brain or wherever. And I was like, oh, yeah. Okay, I got to change that. So it was we flipped the script, and I was able to see the importance. But Lisa, the thing that is so funny in what you're saying, I feel like people have this thing about video, but there's something else, because you would not hesitate. Well, I shouldn't say this. Most anybody, can leave the house without taking a shower or doing their makeup or getting all done up to go meet somebody for coffee or to meet somebody for breakfast, and maybe somebody that they've never met before. So why the heck? And we could sit across from somebody that we don't really know, talk for an hour, listen, leave, and be like, that was great. Like, I felt like we connected. I'm glad I made a new connection. Go home. But then it's like, okay, I just need you to do this on video. There's nobody here, so it's just like you and the camera. So that's even less intimidating, I think, than if it's another person that you don't know. So it's not just that we're afraid of our appearance. I don't know if it's because we're like, well, this could live forever, or what if I don't know, what if I say something really dumb and it gets captured and then played? I'm not sure what the thing is, but I've recently been asking this question, like, it's something else other than just, I'm afraid I don't look right, or I don't like my voice. Because you're not a recluse. You don't stay at home because of those things. You are going out. You're meeting people. You're hanging out. You're having parties. All of the things. So what is it with video that makes that different?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. It's the fact that it is permanent. It may show up years later. And this is one thing I discovered, because I work quite a bit on LinkedIn with posting, and then with working with people who are afraid to show up on LinkedIn. And I did a fascinating survey with this. People are afraid to show up on LinkedIn, to post, to comment, or to even like a post.
Oh my gosh.
And so isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
And so when I dug into it, like getting underneath, what is it that you're afraid of? Being on video is not unlike standing up and doing public speaking. You have an audience who can, on video, rewind and go back and listen to what you said.
Yeah.
They can break down your message. They can look at you, and you're imagining, they're saying, well, who is she to say that? You just used to be this, like there's all kinds of things that you think of, but being on video is not that different from public speaking. And we know how people feel about public speaking, that big fear.
I'd rather die.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a good perspective. And now that I'm thinking about all those things, I think I'm done doing video. Like, boy, do I feel uncomfortable.
No, I think you need to stay on it. You're good. You're good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And honestly, there for a long time for me, like to be on the other side of the camera, it did take, it wasn't like a natural thing. I was very insecure about the permanency, about, me stumbling over words, or just not looking as, my hair not as cool as I want it to look, or my face or whatever. But eventually the belief that the thing that I have to offer is more important than the way that I feel about what I look like or sound, and all of those things that you mentioned earlier. And I'm so, man, I just feel so much more free to have like overcome or be overcoming that. It's not perfect. I wouldn't, there's times of day where I'm like, I wouldn't show up. I kind of look like garbage in the morning. So like, let me wake up a little bit. But I'm thankful because I feel like I am able to make a difference. And if I wasn't able to overcome that fear, we wouldn't be here and be having these awesome conversations, or maybe we would, and it would just be audio and it would still be powerful. But hey, I mean, they get to look at us and they're like, wow, they're real people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing is, someone said to me one time, no one's paying you to be perfect, Lisa. And I thought, oh, that's so really, really true. We need to be relatable. It's okay if we stumble over our words, because then people will see the humanity in us, and that's what connects us.
Yeah, I want to capture this and play this for like all of our clients that need to do a brand story, that need the founder to go on camera and talk about his or her reason, and to see like, oh, they're actually not perfect, but they're relatable, and that makes me connect with this brand or this business so much more because they're just human. I started listening to Smartless, the podcast. I'm not sure if you're familiar. I'm
not.
So Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes, I think his last name is. And these three guys are, they're all Hollywood guys. They've been acting forever, and they're like best friends. And they started the podcast over COVID because they didn't have anything to do. And to hear that, and then they've brought in all of these friends. Like I'm listening right now, Adam Sandler is on this one that they're interviewing. Jennifer Aniston was on the previous one. And they're bringing all these people on, and the people that are their friends, I love this show because nobody's showing up with, hey, I've got to sound perfect. I got to give you the best sound bite. They're interrupting each other. They're cursing. They're just being themselves. And it's just like, you just feel like you are literally in the room hanging. I feel like I'm friends with like Jen Aniston. I call her Jen now because in Adams, I feel like, it's just like, wow, they are so down to earth. And exactly to your point, it's making me like them so much more because I can relate to them.
Yeah, if we show up with everything perfect, like people feel like they can't attain that level. Yeah. So they put you on this different level, and you don't have a chance of reaching them. You can be and the word authentic is so overused, but to be who you are and to be seen as a human, that's why we exist, is to have that connection with people, to have that energy transfer. And that's really important in video.
That's probably why people like me so much, because they're like, man, this guy, he's definitely at my level or a little bit, under me. Very authentic, very relatable. I'm teasing, but sort of serious. Oh man, this is. I love this conversation. This is all like within. I mean, my heartbeat is this. Showing up, being your authentic self, encouraging business owners, but also just people. Everybody has a brand. And if you can start to identify and articulate some of those things that really make you who you are, and being able to leverage those things, because there are people that appreciate and will be drawn to your courage to just show up as you are. Here's my strengths, and here's some of my weaknesses, and this is just me. I mean, if you like it, cool. If you're in business, like, let's consider maybe working together. If you're not in business, it's like, well, if I can put myself out there, and people are like, nah, not for me. That's great, because you just saved me, a 15 or 20 minute discovery call. You saved me and my team, hours of being in production, getting to the middle of a project, and realize like, oh my gosh, like, why these Tell Studios guys, they laugh at everything. They're having a good time, and we don't have time to have a good time. It's like it's a business. the sooner people can understand our personality and realize we're not a fit, amazing. But then for the people that can't appreciate that and get it, holy cow, like so much better of a working relationship. And those are the clients that rave about us, that are like, man, these guys, not only did we get a great video and the process was awesome, but it was enjoyable to work with these guys.
Exactly. And Ryan, when you do find those descriptors about you, your strengths, your challenges, all of that, what I would do is advise people, don't come on and say, these are the things I'm good at, or these are the things that I struggle with, but weave those into a story. And I'm not talking about telling life stories, but pick one small incident that happened. And the story is really not about you. It's what happened. And what did you learn from it? What is the struggle you had? What did you learn from it? And how can you help others avoid the same struggle? And by doing that, you truly are serving your audience.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you get a chance to weave in some of those things about your values or things that were hard. And people will resonate with that. And, we connect with story. That's what you do.
Oh, so good. Yes. We have to do this again. Lisa, how do people that are interested, and they better be interested because we just talked about how important all of this is. What's something that they can do next step? Obviously the podcast, where can they find the podcast? And then online, where can they learn more about you and what you do?
Sure. So the podcast is on every podcast application that's out there that I'm aware of. So it's your passion, purpose, and personal brand. My website is lisamcguire.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm usually on 5 days a week. I'm also on Instagram. And you can also email me, lisa@lisamcguire.com.
So good. Well, Lisa, what's your final word of encouragement for us today?
My final word of encouragement is, you don't have to follow the script you've been given or the role you were told to play. You will truly stand out and attract the right people when you show up as that personal brand of integrity. Showing up as who you are and embracing that, it will attract the right people. You'll become magnetic.
So good. I couldn't have said it better myself, so I'm glad that you said it. Lisa, thanks so much. This was a blast. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Ryan. I had a lot of fun, and I hope I was of service to your listeners and would love to connect and just hear what resonated with you on this conversation.
All right, friend, thanks for joining me on this episode. Remember, the show notes is where we include all of the links and all of the goodies. There's lots of good stuff in the show notes. So if you're not looking in or at the show notes, you're missing out on all sorts of goodies. You can access them for this episode at studiosherpas.com/319. And I think whatever podcast app you're using, there's usually like a place to be able to see the notes in there as well. So I just want to know, what are you going to do today as a result of this interview? Are you thinking about personal branding differently? Do you believe in it more? Or do you believe in the power of it less now since listening to this episode? Let me know. If you're watching the video, leave a comment. You can also shoot me an email, ryan@studiosherpas.com. You can give us a follow on social at Grow Your Video Business, or I'm at Ryan Coral. That's Koral. If you like this episode, take a screenshot with your phone. Share it with a friend, somebody that would be inspired or encouraged by it. I would be very grateful if you did that. And I think that's all I have. Don't forget about the free workshop, studiosherpas.com/workshop. You learn all the mistakes that I've made in this jam-packed 60-minute-ish workshop. You can get it at studiosherpas.com/workshop. And I am very grateful to be feeling good enough to do this intro and outro, because if this were yesterday, my eyes were like super puffy and watery, and I had a headache and all of the things, but I feel so much better. Thank you for asking. Thank you for all your cards and your notes. Just kidding. But I am grateful. I love you very much, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.